I think Donald Trump is clearly out of his mind. If you think that's a sensible way to proceed, you can't ban people going to the United States in that way, or indeed to any country. And what he's doing is playing the game of the terrorists and those who seek to divide us.
Boris Johnson just made a shocking statement about Donald Trump, and it's creating a huge political storm. From Brexit to Trump, his latest comments reveal the truth about their complicated and controversial relationship. But what exactly did Boris Johnson say about Trump on live TV? The answer might surprise you. Find out why Johnson believes Trump's return to power could be a disaster for democracy. This is one story you don't want to miss. Hey, quick favor before we continue. If you're enjoying this political content, please take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Most of you watch without subscribing, and it's completely free, but it helps us out a ton. Have you done it yet? Really appreciate the support. Boris Johnson, the former UK Prime Minister, has spoken about his experience working with Donald Trump. He says Trump was robust and handled big issues like Syria, Iran, and Russia well. Johnson shared his thoughts in an interview with Mike Hosking on Newstalk ZB right before the US election. He thinks the US has an unpredictable but strong democracy, unlike places like China and Russia. Even though Johnson says he has a good relationship with Kamala Harris, he doesn't agree with how people see Trump. He believes Trump had a clear strategy, even if some called him a nut job.
The Prime Minister spoke for many of us when he took a call yesterday to congratulate President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris on their emphatic win in the US presidential election. So does the Prime Minister now have any advice for his erstwhile best friend, President Trump, whose continuing refusal to accept the result is both embarrassing for him and dangerous for American democracy?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I had and have a good relationship with the previous president. I do not resile from that. This is the duty of all British Prime Ministers to have a good relationship with the White House. But I'm delighted to find the many areas in which the incoming Biden-Harris administration is able to make common cause with us. In particular, it was extremely exciting to talk to President-elect Biden about what he wants to do with the COP26 summit next year, Mr. Speaker, in which, as you know, the UK is leading the world in driving down carbon emissions and tackling climate change.
Johnson also thinks if Trump becomes president again, he might help end the war between Russia and Ukraine. He says Trump's opposition to Ukraine aid was more about politics. He wanted to stand apart from people like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. However, if re-elected, Johnson believes Trump would be tough on Putin and make sure the US and NATO don't get pushed around.
Through weakness and incompetence, Joe Biden has brought us to the brink of World War III. We're at the brink of World War III, just in case anybody doesn't know it. As president, I will bring back peace through strength. I would have a peace deal negotiated within 24 hours.
Boris Johnson, the former Prime Minister of the UK, recently shared some strong opinions about Donald Trump and his relationship with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Johnson is worried that some of Trump's advisors really like Putin and are telling Trump things that aren't true. He thinks this could be dangerous for freedom and democracy around the world. At a big conference called Fortune's Global Forum, Johnson said that some people in Trump's political party seem to really admire Putin, even though Johnson himself doesn't feel the same way. He said, "Some of these people think Putin is a great guy because he acts tough and talks about religion." But that's not true. Putin is actually a very bad person. He's a dictator, a thief, and even a murderer. He's really dangerous. Johnson is concerned that these advisors are whispering false ideas into Trump's ear. He also mentioned that the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, is doing something similar. Johnson said, "There's a lot of bad and harmful talk going on right now. I really hope that the people who believe in freedom and democracy will win this argument." Johnson is talking about Trump's plan to end the war in Ukraine quickly if he becomes president again. Trump has said he could stop the war within 24 hours if he's back in the White House. But Johnson thinks this might not be a good idea. He said, "There's a real chance that a deal could be made that isn't good for freedom and democracy. If Ukraine loses, it would be a disaster for the world." Even though Johnson is worried, He remembers that Trump was actually tough on Putin when he was president before. Johnson said, "I'm just saying, if anyone is talking to Trump, this is a great chance to show that the current government has been weak because they haven't given Ukraine the help it needs." A spokesperson for Trump, Caroline Leavitt, responded, "The American people voted for Trump because they trust him to bring peace and strength back to the world. When he's president again, he'll do what's needed to make that happen."
That was a very nasty question from a great American reporter.
And some of your critics are saying that you should resign because you misled the Queen with regard to shutting Parliament down. How do you respond to that?
Well, as I said earlier on, thank you very much. Well, as I said earlier on, let's be absolutely clear. We respect the judiciary in our country. We respect the court.
That was a very nasty question from a great American reporter.
Was that an American report?
An American reporter.
That's a very nice one. I think
a good one.
But I think he was asking a question, to be fair, that a lot of British reporters would have asked.
Let's talk about Liz Truss and Suella Braverman, two British politicians who were in Washington, D.C. for Donald Trump's inauguration. Their presence there tells us a lot about what's happening in UK politics right now. First, let's start with Liz Truss. She's not in Parliament anymore because she lost her seat in the 2024 election. Losing her seat was a big deal. It was one of the most shocking moments of the election. Since then, Truss has been trying to change her image. She used to be known for supporting free markets, open borders, and globalization. But now she's become a big supporter of the New Right, a political movement that's against globalization and wants stricter rules on things like immigration. Truss has been speaking at events like CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, which is closely linked to Trump. CPAC's slogan is, "Where globalism goes to die," which shows how much they dislike globalization. Truss doesn't seem to mind that Trump's policies, like high taxes on imports, go against the free trade ideas she used to support. It's not clear what Truss is trying to achieve. Some people think she's trying to keep her ideas alive in the Conservative Party, even though most of her former colleagues don't support her anymore. Others think she might be planning something bigger, like joining a different political party. There are rumors that Reform UK, a right-wing party led by Nigel Farage, is trying to recruit well-known Conservatives who lost their seats in the last election. Truss might be considering joining them. She's already been seen at events with Farage, like his birthday party in April, where Trump even sent a video message. Another Conservative MP, Andrea Jenkins, has already joined Reform, so it's possible Truss might follow.
Why was Boris Johnson, do you think, in the rotunda? And why not? Why was Nigel Farage not in the rotunda? That's the actual physically witnessing the moment of being sworn in.
Well, I think President Trump can choose who he wants. Now, obviously, the numbers
he chose. Then
I'm told that it was a personal decision by the president. Yeah.
So what does that mean for Nigel Farage if he's the person?
Well, I mean, you'll have to ask others on that, but it is very clear to me that that was a personal choice by the president, choosing people who he was close to.
Now, let's talk about Suella Braverman. She's another Conservative MP who was in Washington for Trump's inauguration. Braverman used to be Home Secretary, but she was fired or quit after arguing with Liz Truss about immigration. Like Truss, Braverman is also rumored to be thinking about joining Reform UK. Both Truss and Braverman represent a direction the Conservative Party might take in the future. They could try to copy Trump's success by focusing on issues like immigration and fighting against institutions, both in the UK and abroad. Their slogan might even be something like "Make Britain Great Again," similar to Trump's "Make America Great Again." However, the current leader of the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch, hasn't taken this approach. She knows that being too extreme could push away voters who are more moderate. The fact that Truss and Braverman were at Trump's inauguration, along with Nigel Farage, who wants to destroy the Conservative Party, sends a strong message to Badenoch. It shows that there are people in her party who want to take a very different direction.
Boris Johnson, you had great hope, I think, for your relationship with Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. How do you think it all ended?
I liked him so much, I still like him, but he really went a little bit on the liberal side. I mean, he all of a sudden became an environmentalist, and I'm talking about probably in a negative way, too much. Look, we all want to protect the environment. Nobody does more than I do. I do a lot of jobs. Look at this. This was done environmentally so incredible. Turnberry, Aberdeen. But something happened. He changed. And a wonderful guy. He's a friend of mine. I don't know whether or not he'll be able to make a comeback. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe he will, maybe he won't.
Finally, there's Boris Johnson. He was the only British politician invited inside the rotunda, where Trump was sworn in as president. Johnson is still close to Trump, and they talk regularly. Even though Johnson's time as prime minister ended badly, he's still a big figure in UK politics. His presence at the inauguration reminds people of the Conservative Party's past success. In 2019, Johnson won a huge election victory by promising to get Brexit done. Even though things didn't go well after that, his win showed how powerful his personality was.
Whatever happens next in the UK, Boris Johnson will be leading the way. He's now back at 10 Downing Street in London. Johnson's expected to speak after meeting the Queen last hour and to formally ask her if he can form the UK's next government. Traditionally, the Prime Minister speaks outside Downing Street, but we have no word yet on the timing for his speech. You're seeing return there after going to meet the Queen. Voters are giving Boris Johnson a strong majority.
Some people think that Trump's second presidential win is less about his policies and more about his personality. Johnson has a lot of personality too, and his presence in Washington might remind people that the Conservative Party used to have someone who could compete with Nigel Farage. Even though Johnson is still unpopular with many voters, and his party is still dealing with the damage he caused, his success in 2019 is something the Conservatives might want to think about as they try to recover from their worst election defeat ever.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Well, what a pleasure it is to be here in the North-West Essex constituency, which just, well, some may say by sheer coincidence, but it's not, happens to be the constituency of the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
In the end, the presence of Truss, Braverman, Farage, and Johnson at Trump's inauguration gives Kemi Badenoch and the Conservative Party a lot to think about. Should they try to copy Trump's style and policies? Or should they stick to a more moderate approach? It's a big decision, and it could shape the future of UK politics. Boris Johnson's comments on Trump have certainly sparked debate. Whether you agree or not, they raise important questions about the future of politics. What do you think about his views? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.